I find the overuse of epic as cringy, but this is one of the very few songs that I would dare to say that has that epic feel to it. Hello there, girls and boys! Today we're gonna be reacting to Kate Bush. And no, she's not famous for being part of the soundtrack for that particular TV show. She was famous before for being awesome. And we're gonna be reacting to one of my favorite songs by her ever, and of course is the now popular, once again, Run Up That Hill from the album Hounds of Love. And this is gonna be a fantastically and super positive review because, as I said before, I love her music, and I love this particular track, to be very precise. Look at this. I'm even losing what I want to say because of how much I love the song. So if this is your jam, let's get into it. But before we delve into it, if this is your first time on the channel, I welcome you because here we analyze the music that we love from the perspective of an active musician and professional music producer, using language that anybody can understand as a way to expand their knowledge when it comes to music production and songwriting. So, with that being said, let's rock and roll. So here you go, girls and boys, Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush. Okay, girls and boys, the first thing that comes to my mind is how impressively creative the song feels in its minimalistic approach to songwriting. I know, right? That sounds kind of counterintuitive. But the thing is that pay attention to the orchestration of the track, and you'll see that you barely have any elements actually interacting with each other. Most of the action is driven by the rhythmic pattern played by the drums, which is quite repetitive, extremely repetitive for that matter. The bass line that is played by this arpeggiated synthesizer, which is a sequencer, and it sounds like this. You got it? Good. And what it basically does, it repeats or plays a sequence of notes on a keyboard just by pressing one of the keys on the keyboard itself, creating this robotic and super precise sound, which is unnatural because it's impossible for us human beings to create such a precise repetition of movements or sequences, and it has an uncanny vibe to it, which I happen to be a huge fan of, because when you mix that perfection that comes from the use of a synthesizer, which is an artificial music creation or sound producing device, in contrast and in the same context of an organic element, such as the human voice, in this case, beautifully performed by Kate's amazing vocals, you get this fantastic iteration and this fantastic sound that is kind of clashy, right? And you got this, remember that this was released during the 80s, and technology was at the forefront of what could be done with it, right? It's important to have a little bit of an idea of the context, because that help us to understand the origins of the sounds that we're listening to. Also, I want you to pay attention to the sound of the vocals as well, because she feels that like she's singing close to you, but then when she hits the higher notes, and particularly the more powerful delivery comes in the chorus, because that's another thing that this song has going on for it. The whole chord progression, it's extremely minimalistic. And basically speaking, you're just listening to the same loop, going back and forth for the entirety of the track. What makes the difference is the fantastic performance by Kate. So whenever she hits those sections, you see how powerful her voice becomes, but then she goes back to being kind of quiet but also intimate to a certain degree. Very good. I want you to pay attention to the sound of her vocals and the sound of the drums themselves, because both of them have this element that I will disclose after we listen to the song a little bit more. But please, once we reach the stage, or before we reach that stage, tell me what you think about the sound of the vocals and the drums. Let's continue. I'm gonna stop it here, girls and boys, because for as much as I love this track, I can't play that much of a song on a straight line because we can get into troubles. So it's a good moment for us to discuss what I was talking to you about a few minutes ago regarding the sound of the vocals and the snare and the drums in general. You know that there is this effect, or please describe the sound of the vocals. To me, they sound super dreamlike. They have this fantastic texture. Once again, Kate is one of the, in my opinion, one of my favorite vocalists ever. Not just because of the interesting sound to her voice. She sounds like Kate Bush. It's the only one that got that particular sound. But also, it has this incredible amount of expression to that vocal style that makes her extremely unique. Being a fan of her music for a good chunk of my life, and it's only due to the notoriety of the track, if I stand correct, it was used as part of one of those super popular. And yes, believe it or not, I am one of those guys who don't watch TV, and I have a fair understanding of what's going on that regard. But I know that this song became popular a few years ago due to Stranger Things, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. And one of I'm bringing this up because I can see why you could use this track in a movie-like context, because the sound of her vocals and the way that she's singing this song makes you feel that there is something big about to happen, don't you think? And the way that she delivers, the reason why she delivers such an emotion, or makes us feel that way, it's due to the way that she's singing. There are moments and there is a pacing to the way that she's singing every phrase. I love when she sings, there was thunder in her heart. I love that line. It sounds amazing. Of course, the moment on which it takes place, it's also important, blah, blah. But it's very, very cool. No wonder why the second title of the track is A Deal We Got. It actually sounds like something very, very important, dramatic, and even cinematic is going to happen. And now, after this long-winded tangent, I am mentioning this because of the effect that is used on her vocals. If you are a fan of the channel and you've been following this analysis for a while, you might be expecting that we're going to be talking about the effect known as reverb, which sounds like this. Reverb. Okay? And you can see that even I tried to match the effect used on her vocals. This is important because reverb, for those of you who are not versed or are not used to this kind of vocabulary, it stands for an effect that we use music producers and musicians to recreate the sound of a space through artificial methods. And in this case, we got this amount of this effect applied in a really interesting amount on the sound of the vocals. Why? Remember when I told you that the song feels, well, it's kind of simplistic and minimalistic on its arrangement. A good chunk of what makes it feel big is the presence of the vocals, and by applying this effect, you put Kate's vocals in a gigantic space, giving you this kind of godlike, dreamlike effect. Super effective, and it's also applied to the snare. You see that it's big and bombastic and 80s sounding, and that's why we love it so much. Even the synthesizers are also affected by it, and so on and so forth. Next time we press play once again, pay attention to the effect and try to see which of the instruments are actually being affected by it. Now, speaking of analyzing stuff, let's take a look at the screen. Over here, girls and boys. We got the tool that's been in front of you for the entirety of this analysis, and this is known as decibel, which is what we use to analyze music through the use of a visual method. And it's going to be divided into sections. For those of you who know what this is, well, you know because you know. But for those of you who are new to this, over here we got the frequency range analyzer, which displays the way and the loudness of each of the individual frequencies that comprises the human hearing range throughout the entirety of the execution of this track. And the higher this white line goes, the louder that particular frequency was at its highest point. 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. So you can see that we don't have got that rumbly modern sound, of course, because this is coming from the dark age of technology, also known as the 80s, and music still was trying to be as real as not real, but you get me, real in the sense of actually having a meaning. Nowadays, well, you know what I mean, right? But part of the charm of the sound of the 80s is the way that and the approach that musicians and music producers had when it came to the developing the sound of their music. It's extremely interesting to me because back then, it's when we developed this uber perfection approach to, aspiring to be as perfect as possible when it came to crafting the sounds used in productions. And one of those elements was the not overabundance of low end. It's interesting because even though we got this interest on trying to get as much as pristine as possible the sound that we're developing as musicians and music producers, we also maybe it's because of the technology available at the time, but you never see this ultra punchy, bombastic that makes everything sound larger than life. Think of the Black Album by Metallica. That's a good referencing point. You can see that the difference with this one is staggering. The Black Album sounds massive, gigantic, punchy, and this one sounds intense, raw, natural, even though it's super doctored. There's a lot of stuff going on. I can't imagine how many hours were spent on the development of the tracks and the whole thing. And that's why I'm pointing out as this. This is a good way for you to detect and it's going to sound super nerdy, but this is a good way for you to detect the period of time on which production was worked on. You begin to see patterns there. But okay, that's a little trivia. But once again, then you got the rest. And again, since this is not a hugely dense mix, in the sense, don't get me wrong, this is not me bashing the track, it's fantastic. But this is not, as I said several times already, it's not an overly layered track. And that's where the beauty lies. That's why you got not that much energy on the rest of the spectrum. Everything feels even. And over here, of course, we're not getting sizzling sounds. And this is where most of the vocal performance lies. That's why you got here this section. And this is maybe the reaction coming from the drums, the drum kit, and some of the synthesizers as well. But overall, fantastic sounding. This, in my opinion, is my personal take, by the way. I would love for music to go back to this sound and to be considered as a very commercially successful approach to writing and producing music, because it's awesome, don't you think? But well, tell me what you think about that. Now, The second section of the analyzer that I poorly timedly realized that it wasn't following the track is this section over here. This is the dynamic range analyzer, and in here we can see how loud the track has been throughout time. The higher this blue blob goes, the louder the signal has been at that very point. And you can see that the music, it's very, very dynamic. You got several variations. It never stays the same. And that's beautiful. And once again, one of the reasons why I covered the 80s so much, they put a lot of effort on keeping this, preserving the dynamic range. Dynamic range is, basically speaking, the interaction between the highest point with the lower point in volume across time of any given track. And the bigger or the more diverse that variation is in a given track, the more exciting the different sections of a song feels. Once again, one of the reasons why this song is so effective and so meaningful to many people is because, see, I can tell from afar that this is the first chorus, and you can see that energy build up. And when she begins singing, with God, that section, it feels much more impactful and powerful. This is why the mix itself became louder while the music became more intense. And we do this as mixing engineers as a way to convey the emotion of being in front of the artist performing live. Remember, this is the whole point of recording and producing music, is to take as close as possible the audience to the experience of being in front of the performer. Inside of their house, in the comfort of their houses. And you got that over there. But see what happens. This is when we come back to the second verse. We went as low as the beginning. That's amazing. And this is the second section, the second part of this analysis. And you can see that the build-up began, once again, slowly but surely. And once again, we hit the zenith, which is once again the chorus, and the drop. Excellent. That's allowing the song to feel organic and monumental throughout time. So let me know what do you think about this whole dynamic range concept, because it's almost a meme now that every single time that I have the chance to see a song like this, I always overreact to it. But it's very important, for real. It is that important. Okay, let's continue.
It's you and me, you won't be unhappy. Come baby, come darling, let me steal this moment from you now. Come on angel, come on darling, let's exchange the experience. If I only could, I'd make a deal with God, and I'd get us to small places. I'd be running up that road, be running up that hill, with no problems. See, if I only could, I'd make a deal with God, and I'd get us to small places. I'd be running up that road, be running up that hill, with no problems. See, if I only could, I'd make a deal with God, and I'd get into small places. I'd be running up that road, be running up that hill, with no problems. So if I only could, I'd be running up that hill, with no problems.
What a badass song that is, right? Let me take you back once again to the screen. Over here, this is exactly what I meant when I was going crazy about the dynamic range. This very point there is where the big ass drum kit pop up, the first time. And you can see every single moment on which those guys came in. And did you feel the loss of volume? No. You enjoyed it. You felt excited about it. Because every time that those moments took place, the song developed momentum. But once again, without overdoing it. This would have been quite easy for the people, for everybody involved in the project, to keep just pushing the fader upwards and upwards and upwards every single time that one of those boom happened. But in the end, you're gonna just end up with a super loud track that it's annoying to listen to. But in here, wow. And see how diverse the final section of the song is in dynamics. Let me show you the previous track. Remember, this is the highest point, close to 16. Look at that. Look at that. The development of the track is palpable. And of course, the song little by little goes in a decrescendo when it comes to the volume. And you see how the track goes little by little, going lower in volume, adding this sense of eeriness and dread, but also epicness. And if you know me, I always try to avoid using that word because I find the overuse of epic as cringy. But this is one of the very few songs that I would dare to say that has that epic feel to it. What a good track this is, for God's sake. And once again, proof that you don't need to have a plethora of freaking instruments or an ultra complex arrangement for make such a song that is monumental, impactful, meaningful, and is transcendental. Aside the fact that it became popular once again due to the TV show and stuff, the song, and Kate Bush's legacy has always been around. Why? Great music. Weird, unique, but that's the point. Having that kind of variety in music is what makes music so enjoyable, because every single one of us is different, and that's what makes humanity what it is. It's a good part of humanity, right? Having different ideas. Who would have thought that? Well, whatever. What do you think about the track? And what do you think about the fanboys? The so-called... this is just a joke, of course. It's great to see that new people are enjoying her music, and she is a great gateway into many of the great acts from that era. For example, Peter Gabriel, Depeche Mode, and look, I have reacted to Peter Gabriel before, and Depeche Mode somehow I am not a fan, but damn it, I respect them quite a lot, and yeah, this could be a good introduction for and it's a good band, simply not my jam, but it's good, and people are finally getting to remember those fantastic acts, and maybe that might inspire people to stop listening to horrible music. But a man can always hope, right? Okay, girls and boys, please let me know what you think about the track. How much do you like it? Which Kate Bush track should I react to after this one? Because, again, I am quite a fan of her stuff. So, let me know what would be a good pick for another iteration of this analysis. Also, if you'd like to support this kind of content and this kind of analysis, please, you can do it by not only subscribing, leaving a comment, and leaving a like on this video, but also by following us on social media such as Instagram and X, because that's the best way for you to get in touch with us in a much more personal basis, and of course, by listening to music on Apple Music or Spotify. Now, as always, as every single time I meet you, there is only one thing left to be said, which is never, ever, ever let anybody tell you what to dream about. And remember, I will see you when I see you.